talking about getting ready for the school day, setting up a good learning environment, making yourself look great on camera, being a good listener, planning ahead, asking for help, preparing for school, and keeping track of your behavior. Throughout the presentation, there are going to be a couple of practice questions. They're just going to be one question Zoom polls, super easy, usually at the end of a section. They're not graded or anything like that, and they're anonymous. They are just a good way to make sure everyone is on the same level of understanding. And it's also been shown that interacting with material helps to improve your learning. Let's get started. So the first topic that we're going to talk about today is getting ready for a day of virtual school. So if you see on the screen, we have a girl brushing her teeth, a picture of a turned on and ready to go laptop, and a backpack next to a pile of books. Preparing yourself physically and mentally sets you up for a great day of virtual school. This includes things like brushing your teeth, getting dressed, and eating breakfast. Establishing a routine before a day of virtual school will help your brain to get ready to learn. A good tip is completing the same steps you take to get ready for in-person school. So if you think about the activities and the steps that you took every morning, a lot of those actually apply to virtual school too. Even though you're not physically going anywhere, it can be really helpful for you to get yourself ready for a great day. So before school starts, a great idea to help yourself get ready is to go through a morning routine. This means doing the same steps in the same order before school starts. And this doesn't have to be exactly the same every day, whatever works for you. For example, my morning routine usually involves taking a shower, brushing my teeth, getting dressed, eating breakfast, and then taking my medicine. And by the time I'm finished with my morning routine, I feel much more awake and ready to start the day. Steps in your morning routine will probably include things like taking a shower, getting dressed, and eating breakfast. Even if you're not leaving the house, it's important to maintain personal hygiene. Things like showering, brushing your teeth, and combing your hair, and getting dressed are still important even if you're not going outside. Remember, video calls means that people can still see you. It's also important to keep that habit for when we're able to do things in person again. And it's important for maintaining your overall health and well-being. It's also definitely a good idea to eat breakfast before you start class. Eating breakfast can improve your mood and your ability to concentrate on schoolwork. Plus, you don't want to be interrupted in the middle of class by a growling stomach. It's also important to make sure you're prepared for the day. When you went to in-person school, what did you take with you? You probably had a backpack filled with all the books, papers, writing utensils, and any other objects you'd need for a successful school day. Before online school starts, gather up all the things you'll need for the day, just like you would for in-person school. To help make sure you have everything, think about what items you'll need for each class. Make sure you have all the learning materials you'll need for the day. This includes things like papers, folders, books, notebooks, and binders. You'll also need any tools necessary for classes. So things like writing utensils like a pen or pencil, and maybe an extra one or two just in case. It also might be a good idea to have an eraser or a pencil sharpener nearby. You might also need items for specific classes like a calculator, a ruler, or other specific tools for classes like math. Lastly, make sure you have any personal equipment that you need to help you learn, like glasses or hearing aids. Have everything nearby so they're accessible when you need them. It's a lot easier to get prepared for school if you stay organized. This means keeping all of your school materials in one area and putting them back when you're done. If it helps, you can keep using your backpack, or maybe use a certain bookshelf for all of your schoolwork. That way you'll know right where everything is when you need it. Another good tip for staying organized is to make a list of all of the things you'll need for each class on a daily basis. You can check off the items on your list as you get them, so you can make sure you're not missing anything. Online school means you not only have to prepare yourself, you also need to prepare your computer. If you're using a laptop, it's always a good idea to charge it overnight so it's ready to go in the morning when classes start. But you should also probably keep your laptop charger nearby in case it dies in the middle of class or in case the battery starts running low. Also, make sure you have any computer accessories you'll need during class. These could be things like a keyboard, a mouse, or headphones. Before class starts, it's a great idea to turn on your computer and make sure everything's working. You don't want to find out your computer isn't working anymore after class has already started. So this is a practice question, no pressure. I'm going to put up a poll, and if you guys could answer, that would be great. I'm sorry. Sorry, now the poll is launched. I think you probably saw the answer, but I have faith that you would have done great on this poll anyway. And so this question says, which of the following is not a good way to get ready for a day of virtual learning based on what we've talked about? Okay, it looks like everyone has voted, and most people got it right. Skipping breakfast is not a good way to get ready for a day of virtual learning. Brushing your teeth, gathering your school materials, and turning on your computer are all things that we talked about. Skipping breakfast is also something we talked about, and we said isn't a good idea to do. The next thing we're going to talk about is creating a personalized learning area. Since you don't have a classroom, it's up to you to make a learning area that you're able to thrive in. So on the screen, we have a picture of a table, a chair, and a cute little owl decoration reading a book. So research has actually shown that your physical surroundings can affect how ready you feel to work. By setting up a specialized learning area, you can let your brain know that it's time to start learning. This will help you to maximize your ability to focus and to be productive. Pick an area that works well for online schoolwork. That means you'll need a flat, hard surface for writing since you won't have a desk in a classroom. You should also be close to an electrical outlet in case you need to charge your devices like a laptop or a tablet. Lastly, you should make sure you have good internet connection in whatever spot you pick. Different areas around your house might have different strengths of connection, so it's definitely a good idea to check it out before you start school. Your learning area should be the same every day. This will help your brain recognize it's time to learn, just like walking into a classroom would. Make your learning area a place you want to be. You can do this by putting up some small decorations, like the cute little owl we saw. Nothing that will take away from your classes, but maybe a nice poster or a singular banner. Another good way to make it special is to pick a pen or pencil to use that you only use during class time. You're going to be sitting for a long time during school, so it's important to pick a comfortable seat. It can be hard to focus when you're not comfortable. Pick an area with a comfortable place to sit, but not too comfortable. You need to stay sitting up the whole time. As a tip, you can try putting a pillow on top of the chair to make it more comfortable. Lastly, find a place where there won't be distractions for you or your teachers and classmates. This means no TV or music on in the background, and not a lot of people walking or talking by. It's also a good idea not to be somewhere noisy, so sitting right next to your really loud dishwasher, probably not a great idea. If you can, it helps to find an area with a plain background so that your classmates and teachers can focus on your beautiful face and not the things around you. Okay, another practice question. I'm gonna go ahead and launch the poll. This asks, which of these would make a good learning area? So if you guys want to go ahead and respond, that poll is launched. The options are the living room, where the TV is always on, the dining room, which has a lot of light and is usually empty, the basement, which has poor internet connection, or the family room, where my sisters run and play. Give it a couple more seconds. Looks like almost everyone has voted. Okay, and it looks like everyone got it right. The dining room, which has lots of light and is usually empty, would be a great place to work. There's a flat, hard surface to write in. There's lots of light so that you can see your work and your peers can see you. Um, and there's not a lot of people walking by or a lot of noise in the background. Next, we're going to talk about being on camera. This is a skill that you probably didn't have to practice when you went to in-person school. On the screen, you can see a lamp, an image of some clip art video conferencing, and then the logo for Microsoft Teams, which I believe is what Monongalia County schools are using for the most part. Making yourself look great on camera lets everyone know that you're a student who's ready to learn. To look your best on screen, you need to have a good computer posture, meaning that your body is well positioned in front of the camera. Here's about what you should look like on the screen. And this visual is on the handout as well. So if you want to go ahead and take a look at that, that can be a great reference. So when you're on camera, you should be sitting with your body facing the camera so your shoulders are square with your computer. So there should be 2 horizontal lines between your shoulders and the computer. You shouldn't be angled in any way. You should also be about 1 or 2 feet away from the screen. If you're too close, your classmates might only be able to see part of your face. But if you're too far away, it might be hard to see you at all. You should also be sitting so your face takes up most of the screen, with some background showing above your head and beside you. You should also sit with enough light for your teachers and your classmates to see your beautiful face. All right, and now we are going to do some practice questions of good camera posture. This is going to be a little different. There is more than one question, but I promise you, I think you guys will do great. So the first question is this person displaying good camera posture? I'll go ahead and open up that poll. All right, so if everyone wants to go ahead and vote, based on what we talked about, what do you think? Is she displaying good camera posture? All right, it looks like a little more than half of you have voted. All right, I'll give it one more second. Okay, and it looks like everyone got it right. So the way she's sitting, there is background showing above her head and to either side of her. Her body is in the center of the frame, and she has plenty of light on her beautiful face. All right, next one. Is this person displaying good camera posture? All right, looks like a few more people need to answer, please. Okay, so the answer is no, she is not showing great camera posture. We can only see half of her face. She's doing a good job of being in the middle with the camera showing her shoulders up, but we want to be able to see her other half too. What about this person? Is he displaying good camera posture? Okay, it looks like about half of you have voted. Okay, and you all got it right. He is not displaying great camera posture. As you can see, the camera is way too far above his head. We can't even see his whole face. It would be much better if his body was centered in the middle of the frame, like on the right. What about this one? So she actually isn't showing great camera posture. She's doing a really good job of being centered, but her face is too close to the camera to the point where it's a little bit distorted. It would be a lot better if she was back a little bit so that we could see her from about the shoulders upward. Is this person displaying good camera posture? Okay, he is indeed. He is nicely centered in the frame. We can see him from the shoulders up, and we can see his whole face, but not too much of it. What about him? Do we think he's showing ideal camera posture? Okay, I'll give it one more second. Yeah, you guys all got this one. This is not great camera posture because he's too far away from the camera. We can see him from the waist up, but we can mostly only see the background behind him. If he were to scoot up a little bit, like in the picture on the right, we'd have a much easier time seeing his face. What about her? This one's a little tricky. So what do you think? Is this ideal camera posture? So this camera posture could definitely be better. She is doing a pretty good job of being seen from the shoulders up, but she's not centered in the middle of the camera. So it's hard to keep focused on her face and not the bright blue background behind her. It would be better if she would just scoot over a little bit, like in the right picture, so that she's nicely centered in the middle of the frame. Two more. What about him? Is he displaying good camera posture? What do we think? Okay, you guys all got this one right. He is not displaying great camera posture. We can't even see the top of his head. So he's doing a good job being in the middle of the frame, but he's a little too in the middle of the frame. It would be better if he had some background showing above his head and on either side of him. Okay, this is our last one. What about her? Is she displaying good camera posture? Okay, I'll give it a little bit longer. If everyone could do their best to vote, please. Okay, I'm just gonna wait till I get a couple more answers. All right, she is showing excellent camera posture. She is nicely centered in the middle of the frame. We can see background to her left and right and above her head, and we can see her from the shoulders upward. Next, we're going to talk about being a good listener during online school. So on the screen, you can see an image of an ear, which represents listening. You can see a person sitting up very straight and nicely at their desk. And on the right are some plastic balls with soft plastic spikes on them. These are actually sensory tools, which can help students to sit still and stay calm during school. So it's important to do your best to focus on your teachers and your classmates, to let them know that you're ready to participate and to learn. The first step in this is keeping your eyes focused. Look at the screen while someone is talking. Even though you can't make direct eye contact through a computer, it's still good to look a person in the eyes so they know you're listening, or in the camera so they know you're listening. It's also important to follow directions. So if your teacher tells you to look at a screen or look at a paper, go ahead and follow their directions. A general rule of video learning is to mute yourself when it's not your turn to talk. Your teacher might have specific rules about this, but as a general rule, it's good to turn off your sound so that people can't hear you making noises while they're trying to talk. Over video learning, things can be even louder, and it can sometimes be extra hard to stay quiet. Even breathing could make a really loud noise in the microphone on your computer. Similarly, it's a good idea to turn off your camera if something distracting happens around you. So if your dog runs up and starts barking and jumping all over you, maybe turn off the camera. It's probably a cute dog, but you want to focus on learning. A good listener tries their best to stay still. This means doing your best to remain seated without rocking or moving around in your chair. Remember that things are sometimes extra loud over video, so your movement might be very distracting to others. This includes things like tapping your fingers on your laptop or on the table. If you need to, try using small, gentle movements to help the rest of your body stay still. These should be gentle body movements, so nothing loud and nothing that makes a lot of, no big gestures or loud noises. If you are going to use some movement, try to keep it out of the view of the camera. The goal is to help you focus more, not to make your classmates focus less. You can also try using quiet sensory toys, or fidget tools. These are designed to help you focus while sitting still. On the screen is an image of something called a fidget cube, and we can see three sides. On the left, there's a spinning mechanism. On the top, there's a joystick, and on the right, there are a few buttons. So you could hold this under the table and quietly play with it so that part of you is moving, but the rest of you is staying still. Other good examples might be wiggling your fingers under the table or lightly tapping your foot against the carpet. If you need to, talk to your teachers about scheduling a movement break during class. Okay, it is time for a practice question. Which of these is an appropriate way to move around during class? Okay, the poll is launched. You could go ahead and take a second to answer that, please. So which one do we think is appropriate? Banging on the table, stomping my feet on the ground, playing with a fidget toy under the table, or getting up and walking around the room? Thank you guys for answering. I'm just going to give it a couple more seconds. Okay. So most of you got it right. The most appropriate of these options would be playing with a fidget toy under the table. Banging on the table and stomping your feet on the ground would both probably make very loud noises that would be distracting to your classmates. They're also large movements, which would be visually distracting and would probably prevent you from being able to focus on the lesson. Walking around the room is also problematic because that's not staying in your seat, meaning you can't even be looking at your teacher and at the lesson. The next thing we're going to talk about is planning ahead. So as we can see, there is a notepad, a check mark and an X to represent what is right and wrong, and the raising hand icon. It's important to make sure you understand all of your teacher's expectations. Transitioning to online school has been difficult for everyone, but working with your teacher to make a plan for online learning will help you both succeed this virtual school year. Firstly, ask your teachers if they have any specific rules or procedures for online learning. These could be rules about things like using the microphone, camera, or chat functions, or how to turn in homework and assignments online. It's also important to know how your teacher would like you to communicate during class. For example, what should you do if you need a bathroom break, or a snack or water break, or a movement break? Some teachers might have different rules about how they would like you to communicate your needs to them. So it's definitely a good idea to ask before you're in the middle of class and needing to go to the bathroom. As a tip, try taking notes on what rules different teachers have so you never have to worry about remembering all of them at once. All right, it is time for a practice question. Which of these is an important rule to know for class? So which of these ones do we think are important to know about? Whether you should keep your camera on, how you should ask to use the bathroom, how you should turn in your homework, or all of the above. Okay, and you guys all got it right. It is all of the above. All of these are things that we talked about, and all of them are important to know. They're also important to know before you're in the middle of the class and realize you have no idea how your teacher wants you to ask. The next thing we're going to talk about is asking for help. As you can see, there's some question marks, some speech bubbles, but then a thumbs up. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Your teachers want to support you, but they may not always know what you need. So sometimes you might need to let them know. When asking for help, use a professional, friendly tone with an inside voice volume, and try to use manners like please and thank you whenever you can. A good example is, "Excuse me, could you please help me with this math problem? I don't understand it." A bad example would be, "I hate math. Show me how to do this." I understand if you hate math. However, your teacher is trying to help you, so try not to sound angry or frustrated toward her, even if you are. If you're going to ask for help, try to pick a time when you won't be interrupting. A good time is usually before or after class when your teacher's not busy. Or during class, if your teacher asks for questions, that's a great time to speak up too. If you need something during class, try raising your hand or privately messaging your instructor. This is a good rule to learn about ahead of time. If you need more time to speak with your teacher, ask if you can schedule a time to talk with them later. That way, you can ask all the questions you need without taking up any other student's time. Communicate with your instructors regularly to make sure all of your needs are being met. Remember, they want to see you succeed. Okay, and a practice question. Which of these is not a good time to ask for help? While my teacher is speaking, after class, when my teacher is not busy, at a scheduled meeting time, or when my teacher asks if anyone has questions. Remember, this one is asking which one is not a good time to ask for help. So based on what we talked about, think about which of these would be appropriate and which of these would not be appropriate and might be distracting to others. Give it a couple more seconds. All right, and most of you got it right. It is not a good idea to ask for help while your teacher is in the middle of speaking. Much better times to ask for help would be after class when your teacher's not busy, at a scheduled meeting time, or when your teacher asks if anyone has questions. Next, we're going to talk about being prepared. So you can see there's a checklist, some sticky notes, and then some deep breaths, all of which are good ways to prepare yourself for a day of online learning. All of these rules can be a lot to remember, but practicing helps to make these skills feel easier and more natural. So one good way to prepare yourself for a day of online school is to make a checklist of all the things you need before class, all the things you need to do before class, what materials you need to bring to class, and any instructions for how to behave during each class. Have your checklist nearby during class so you can make sure you're not forgetting anything throughout the day. Once you have an item, you can go ahead and cross it off your list, knowing that you've done it right. Another good idea is using visual reminders. Can include things like putting sticky notes nearby with reminders, or putting up a picture of good computer posture. So if you can see, there's a yellow sticky note that says, "Remember to sit still during the lesson." Or if you want to remind yourself to ask for your teacher for help after class, you could put a sticky note that says, "Don't forget to ask for help after class." You can put these sticky notes on your laptop or nearby somewhere on your desk. You can also print out a picture of a good example of good computer posture. That way, you can check to make sure that your body on the screen matches the good computer posture in the picture. It's also important to practice ways to calm yourself down before you become frustrated. School can be really hard and really emotional, so practicing some ways to help yourself calm down ahead of time is a great way to make sure your day stays great. One way is to take slow, deep breaths, usually breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth slowly. This helps to lower your heart rate. You can also try counting to 10 in your head before saying or doing anything. This helps to prevent you from angrily saying or doing something you'll regret later. Be kind to yourself. It's okay if you realize you're not following all of the rules. Make the necessary adjustments and continue learning. Okay, and this is our last practice question. So it's asking, which of these is a good way to help you remember appropriate behavior during class? So we have our options are a checklist of the rules, a sticky note reminder, a picture of good computer posture, or all of the above. So think about what we talked about and think of whether or not these things could be a good way to help you remember stuff during class. Okay, I'm just going to wait for a couple more votes. Great job. So the answer is all of the above. All of these things are great ways to help you remember appropriate behavior during class. You can make a checklist of the rules, you can put up a sticky note reminder, and you can put up a picture of good computer posture to make sure that your picture matches. So the last section we're going to talk about today is self-management. We've covered strategies for staying focused, acting appropriately, and setting yourself up for success. So now that you know good learning behaviors, you can improve those behaviors in yourself. Self-management is a great way to help yourself improve good behaviors. It can help you to become more aware of your habits and behavior patterns. It can improve your ability to focus, and it can strengthen your appropriate behavior skills. Self-management basically means making a plan to check in with yourself regularly. Checking in means taking a moment to observe yourself and your own behavior. Then ask yourself, have I been maintaining good behavior? Then you can record your answer on a self-management chart, which we'll talk about in a moment. Making a self-management plan has 5 basic steps. First, pick a behavior to focus on. Next, decide how often to check in with yourself. Then, set up check-in reminders. Then choose a behavior goal. And finally, select a reward for meeting your behavior goal. Here's an example of a blank behavior chart. So the top row has a space for you to write in what behavior you'd like to improve. Then the row below that has spaces for you to decide how frequently you want to check in with your own behavior. The next 5 rows have spaces to track your behavior throughout the school week. Each box corresponds with a day of the week and a self-check-in time, so you can mark whether or not you are behaving appropriately during that time. At the bottom is a space to write in what your behavior goal is for the week, and then what reward you'll receive if you meet your goal. So the first step of self-management is picking a behavior to focus on improving. So the behavior you pick should be an appropriate behavior that you struggle to maintain and want to get better at. Some examples could be sitting with good computer posture, actively listening to your teacher, or staying in your seat. All of these can be hard, and it might be a good idea to work on them. Next, decide how often to check in with yourself. Remember, this means asking yourself how well you've been maintaining good behavior. It should be a consistent amount of time, so every 4 minutes or every 5 minutes. If you really struggle with a behavior, it can be more often than that, even every 30 seconds. Use a digital clock to set check-in reminders. You can use an alarm, stopwatch, timer, or clock function, but don't use something very loud or distracting. And definitely get permission from your teacher before setting reminders during class. Then set a goal for your behavior. Some good examples are things like keeping good camera posture for 10 minutes in a row, or staying seated for the whole class for 3 days during the week. If you meet your behavior goal, then you can reward yourself. Remember, you'll only receive the reward if you reach the standards you set for yourself. So try to pick something that motivates you to work hard. This should be a special treat, something like candy, movie, extra iPad time, or something else you enjoy. So now we're going to go through an example of using self-management. On the screen, you can see a desk chair, a spreadsheet icon, a clock icon, and some ice cream. All of these are going to be elements of the self-management plan we create. This is Sarah. Sarah has a hard time sitting still during her 30-minute online class. She wants to improve this behavior, but isn't sure how. Let's help Sarah use self-management. So the first part is making a plan. The plan should be detailed and specific to Sarah, so it will be based on her personal surroundings, behaviors, and preferences. So as a reminder, here are the steps for making a self-management plan. Picking a behavior to focus on, deciding how often to check in with yourself, setting up check-in reminders, choosing a behavior goal, and then selecting a reward for meeting your behavior goal. So first, pick a behavior to focus on. Sarah has already completed this step. She wants to get better at sitting still during class. So as you can see on the chart, we can fill in the top line, which says behavior, with sit still during class. Now that she's selected a behavior, Sarah needs to define exactly what that behavior looks like. That way, Sarah can judge how well she's doing at maintaining good behavior when she checks in with herself. So Sarah shouldn't just say, I will do a better job of sitting still. What counts as sitting still? If she sits with her body still, but her feet up off the ground, does that count? Or what about if her feet are on the ground and her body's moving? Or what if she's sitting still, but it's not in her chair? A better definition of this behavior would be, I will stay seated with my back against the chair and my feet on the floor. These are very specific, so anyone, not even just Sarah, can tell whether or not Sarah is exhibiting appropriate behavior. So Sarah defines sitting still as staying seated with her back against the chair and her feet on the floor. As you can see, we can fill in that definition on the next line in the self-management chart. The next step is to decide how often to check in with yourself. For Sarah, checking in will mean asking herself whether or not she's been sitting still since she was last reminded. She'll record her answers on her chart every time she checks in. To decide how often she should check in with herself, Sarah asks her dad for help. Her dad watches Sarah during her next class and keeps track of how long she can sit still without being reminded. He says that Sarah can sit still for about 6 minutes on her own. But instead of asking her dad, Sarah also could have tried judging how long she's able to sit still all by herself. To do this, Sarah would start out with a plan that reminded her to check in very frequently, like every 1 or 2 minutes. If Sarah was easily able to sit still for 2 minutes, then she could decrease the reminders to once every 3 minutes. She could then keep decreasing the frequency of the reminders until it became more difficult to sit still for such a long time. So if she set the timers to be once every 4 minutes and it was still easy, then maybe she could try setting it at every 5 or 6 or 7 minutes. But if she has a really hard time sitting still for 7 whole minutes, that's probably her limit. For Sarah, sitting still becomes difficult after 6 minutes. A good plan would be to check in with herself once every 5 minutes, so a little less time than how long she's usually able to sit still on her own. Since Sarah's class is 30 minutes long, the class can be broken up into 5 5-minute sections. So you can see in the row labeled time that it says 1 to 5 minutes, 6 to 10 minutes, 11 to 15 minutes, 16 to 20 minutes, 21 to 25 minutes, and 26 to 30 minutes. That means that after a reminder goes off at 5 minutes, Sarah can fill in the box for the first column, asking whether or not she was sitting still for the first 1 to 5 minutes of her class, and so on. The next step is to set check-in reminders. Sarah talks to her teacher about using a self-management plan. Her teacher says that Sarah can use her plan during class as long as the self-check-in reminders are quiet. To set the check-in reminders, Sarah could use her phone, a digital clock, or a stopwatch. She can also use apps like alarms, alerts, or just a digital timer. For Sarah, setting the reminders as alarms on her phone is the most convenient. To make them quiet, she decides she will put her phone on vibrate. She'll also keep her phone in her lap so the vibrating sound doesn't make a loud noise on the table. The next step is to choose a behavior goal. This is the minimum amount of good behavior that Sarah must maintain in order to access the reward at the end of the week. Her behavior goal will help Sarah to keep motivated to do her very best to sit still. Sarah's behavior goal should be measurable. It should tell Sarah exactly how long she has to sit still to earn a reward. Someone else should also be able to judge her behavior and figure out whether or not she's sitting still and meeting her own goal. It should also include specific numbers so it can be measured. A bad example would be, I will sit still for a while during class. How long is a while? I might think a while is 5 minutes, while you might think it's 25 minutes. Instead, a better example would be, I will sit still with my back against the chair and my feet on the floor for at least 10 minutes during class. Sarah's behavior goal should also be reachable. So it should be something that Sarah thinks she can already do if she really tries. It shouldn't be too hard, Otherwise, Sarah might give up before she even starts. So it's probably not a great idea to set her goal as I will sit still during the whole class for 4 days in a row. A better goal would be I will sit still for at least 10 minutes during class for 2 days during the week. So that means that on any 2 of the 5 days of the week, she sits still for at least a total of 10 minutes during the 30-minute class. So Sarah decides that her goal will be sitting still for a total of at least 15 minutes during a class and doing that at least 3 days during the week. Now we're able to fill in the goal on Sarah's chart. Lastly, Sarah needs to select a behavior for reaching her select a reward for reaching her behavior goal. It's important to choose a good reward for Sarah so that she'll be motivated to keep working hard at sitting still. Sarah's reward should be something that her caregivers are okay with. Sarah needs to get permission to have the reward if she meets her goal. Her reward should not be adopting 5 cats from the animal shelter. Instead, a better reward would be getting a new stuffed animal. Sarah's reward should also be something that can definitely happen. In order to keep her motivated, Sarah needs to be sure that she can have the reward if she meets her goal. So a good reward probably would not be, I will build a snowman on Saturday. A better reward would be watching a movie on Saturday, since that is not dependent on the weather. Sarah's reward should also be something that she doesn't get very often. The reward is supposed to stand out as a special treat, so it should be something she doesn't usually get to have. So if her reward is the same bowl of cereal she eats every morning, she probably won't be very motivated to sit still. But if her reward is something like having breakfast for dinner, she'll more likely try harder to sit still. Lastly, Sarah's reward should be something that she really likes. Sarah will most likely work the hardest if she's really excited about the reward she can earn. So a plate of broccoli probably wouldn't be a great one. Now, if you love broccoli, this could be a great reward for you, but for Sarah, it's not something she likes. Instead, a better reward would be a chocolate bar. Sarah loves strawberry ice cream, and she's not usually allowed to get it. She talks to her dad, and he agrees that if she meets her behavior goal for the week, she can have some strawberry ice cream. So strawberry ice cream is something that Sarah can definitely get, something that her dad approves of, something that she's not usually allowed to have, and something she really likes. If Sarah reaches her goal, she should set her goal for the following week to be a little harder. For example, she could have to sit still for 20 minutes during the class instead of 15, or for 4 days during the week instead of 3 in order to earn a reward. It's important for Sarah to keep increasing her goals so that she works up to sitting still all on her own. If she doesn't reach her goal, Sarah should keep her goal the same and try again next week. She shouldn't increase her next goal until she meets her current one. Now that we've finished our plan for Sarah, it's time for Sarah to use the chart we've made for her. She has to consistently follow her self-management plan in order to get better at sitting still. So as a review, here's the self-management chart that we made for Sarah. You can see the behavior she wants to work on and its definition. You can see the time we set for how often she will check in with herself. You can see the squares where she will be able to fill in her observations when she checks in with her behavior. Then we have her behavior goal and her reward for reaching the behavior goal. Sarah sets alarms on her phone to go off every 5 minutes during class. The alarms are loud enough that Sarah can hear it, but quiet enough that it won't distract her teacher or her classmates. When an alarm goes off, Sarah asks herself, have I been sitting still since the last alarm? If the answer is yes, she puts a check mark in the appropriate box on the chart. If the answer is no, she marks an X. During Monday's class, Sarah sits still for a total of 15 minutes. Her chart looks like this. So since there are 30 total minutes in the class, sitting still means that Sarah has 3 check marks and 3 X's. A few times during the week, Sarah shows her chart to her dad and her teacher to see if they agree about how well she's been sitting still. They both tell Sarah that her chart seems accurate and that she's doing a good job of observing her own behavior. Sarah continues to track her behavior throughout the week. On Friday, her chart looks like this. So as you can see, she has put an X or a check mark in all of the boxes. Sarah sees that she has an extra hard time sitting still at the end of class. She can use this information and incorporate it into her next behavior goal. Sarah also sees that she was able to sit still for at least 15 minutes on Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. This means that Sarah has met her behavior goal. Since she met it, Sarah's dad takes her out to get her favorite strawberry ice cream. Sarah continues to follow her self-management plan to keep track of how well she sits still during class. Each week, she's able to increase the difficulty of her behavior goal by a little bit. By the end of the semester, she can sit still for 30 minutes without being reminded. In addition to sitting still, Sarah finds that she has an easier time focusing during class. Her grades have improved, and so has her mood. Both her dad and teacher tell Sarah that they are very proud of her hard work. It's important to note that Sarah's self-management plan worked because she was motivated to improve her behavior. If you're motivated to improve your behavior, self-management could be a great option for you too. Okay, this is the part where we take in a deep breath in and then let it out. We did it. That was a lot of content and you guys did great. I would give you all a shining, glittering gold star if I could. As a review, we talked about setting yourself up for a great day, creating a space that helps you learn, presenting yourself well on camera, actively focusing on your classes, communicating with your teachers, asking for help when you need it, preparing yourself for online school, and checking in with yourself.